So, depending on the context of this video, you might see this potentially attached onto the end of last episode, or I guess the current episode. And you guys will see at the beginning of this video or end of this video, depending on the length of it. But as the other one was ending to be about an hour long, I decided to do a split cut, and I just decided to open it up here. So we'll see how long this takes us. We're professionals at this point. Miranda rolled her eyes, but nothing could derail her unmistakable delight in her boyfriend's proclamation. She lightly packed her hands on her shoulder. Terry, Baxter is a professional. Did you forget?
Nah.
No, that only proves my point. We're doing the same work. Miranda giggled and simply accepted Terry's argument. She shook her head as she calmed down.
Thank you.
None of this would have been possible without you. You did a great thing for my family. Thank you so much. Miranda sniffled and blinked, trying to keep tears away. I think the wedding was great. You did a really good job. Terry nodded solemnly and gently rubbed the side of Miranda's arm. Baxter watched over the group, smiling earnestly. Despite all the talk about being professionals, it was the least businesslike Baxter had acted all around them in 5 years.
You're good.
Likewise, your efforts were impressive. I'm never planning a wedding ever again. Deflating against the van, you emitted an exaggerated groan. That declaration earned a couple of snorts and a few twisting grins from your friends, taken after Terry. Think of it this way, you were tying on a high note. Today was a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and unforgettable. And June and Scott loved your control.
I see.
I suppose you'll have to leave it to the professionals next time. What, you? Good thing we know a guy, huh? Yes, you do. On that note, the wedding was officially done. There's no reason for any of you to return to the empty event room, and tomorrow stranger lacked any important appointments. There wasn't a single reason remaining for you to set foot in Baxter's office anytime soon. It was entirely at an end. The only traces of what originally brought the five of you back together had been unceremoniously stuffed into the van. It was unintentional, but you stood there in a moment of silence until Baxter used that opening to clear his throat. Since we're gathered here and there's no longer a wedding to fuss over planning anymore, I must use this opportunity to properly apologize to the rest of you. Baxter threaded his fingers through his hair and faced the uncertainty staring back at him. To not beat around the bush, I treated your friendship and the time we spent together inconsiderately. I decided things for you, about you, without letting you have any say.
I'm sorry.
I was wrong to do that. It was unfair and I'm sorry. His sincerity left the three of you unable to react. At first, anyways. Gradually, the words sunk in and your friend's attention flickered between you and him. The corner of Terry's mouth tugged into a satisfied smile. He proudly raised his chin and bumped his fist into Baxter's shoulder.
Finally!
I always knew you had it in you. Better late than never, B-Man. Miranda bashfully wrapped a stray curl around her finger and humped in agreement.
Yep.
There's no reason why we need to forgive you anymore. Exactly. So don't need to worry. It's all water on the bridge now. Sure, forget about it. We can start over. Finally, Baxter's lips parted and he breathed a deep sigh of relief. The weight of his worries visibly lifted from him. How long was he wanting to do that? Years, you imagine, anxiously picturing the possible directions the conversation could have
I
gone.
appreciate the understanding.
Again. Yep, we're understanding people, right, needlessly so. Terry clasped and then pointed at the van. Miranda and Cove nodded, understanding what that key meant. Some of us are still gonna have to unpack this mess. We gotta get out of here, right, Andy? Sorry. No, please, go on. Short goodbyes were traded, then Terry, Miranda, and Cove tiredly slid into the van. Somehow, Mr. Holden had convinced Cove to stay in his old bedroom, despite it being turned into a makeshift storage container, and the others were going to drop him off on their way. He encouraged him to do it, even though he would have been happy to join you in Adam's house. Cove rolled down his window and propped himself on his elbows. He waved you closer.
Oh,
By the way, it's gonna be a busy day for me tomorrow, me and my dad, you know. Terry leaned back in his seat, and he tried to spot through the back of the window. He couldn't see past Cove's body. He opted to yell at his comments. Randy and I are working. If things go well, you're gonna have time to yourself after all this. Thanks for that, I don't mind. I need an escape route. I'll keep you guys' busy schedules in mind. After that, Sleepy promises to see each other share, and then at long last everyone went their own way for the night. And there was one final pit stop left before you could return to Baxter's place in the city and rest, Jude and Scott's house. The suburbs were calling you in to come collect your clothes. Baxter used the moment to check in if you truly are right with your friends being aware of the relationship. You reassured him, but asked not to spring it on anyone else without proper preparation going forward. During the drive, you sent a text to let them know how your plans had changed. The newlyweds responded quickly, and they were thrilled to hear that you would have company while you were still in the area. While they never outright said it, you got the impression over the last few days that they had been feeling guilty. Honeymoon or not, leaving a household guest behind just didn't sit right with either of them. Their thoughtfulness and concern were appreciated, but now the lot of you could breathe easy. Before putting your phone away, you sent off one last text wishing them well and safe travels on their honeymoon. They replied instantly and thanked you for your help, giving them one of the best days of their lives. When you reached the house, Baxter parked the car and followed you out. In seconds, you unlocked the front door with a handy spare key you'd been gifted and let him inside, and struck an odd note observing how silent the house was without Jude or Scott to fill the space. You were newly relieved to not be there by yourself, though it kinda sucked to have to pack so soon after clearing the event room. There was a growing anticipation you got that spurred you on. There was no way of knowing what to expect from temporarily moving yourself in with Baxter, but you were optimistic. Peeking past your shoulder, you spotted Baxter in the doorway, who was graciously waiting you on standby, and once you were ready, he stepped in and helped carry your bags to his car. Not only did he utter a single complaint, but he, fortunately, also hadn't brought nearly as much as an entire wedding worth of things. Between the two of you, it didn't take long as you took to pack Terry's van, and then you were ready to go again. But you did check one more sweep of the house to make sure everything was in check. Nothing was left on. You locked the door. Then the two of you were on your way home once more. From there, Baxter brought you to his apartment. For a second time, pushed the door open. You flipped on a nearby light switch on, and then together you went inside. Instantly, you felt at ease. Baxter wanted you there, and you wanted to be there. Sighing drowsily, your body knew there was nothing left to worry about, and you could finally rest. Excuse me. Baxter seemed equally ready to collapse at the end of the long chain of stressful challenges.
Now?
Well, now. He exhaled deeply, and despite his weary demeanor, Baxter offered you an amicable smile. Are you ready to get settled in? We can bring the bags to your room. Then you are free to get changed into something more comfortable or to pass out. Anything you wish. For a moment, you found yourself caught on his choice of words, declaring the guest room is plainly yours. It was wonderful, but almost far-fetched to believe that you held a concrete place within Baxter's world. Yes, please. After the busy day you had, you were more than ready to put on something infinitely more comfortable. Wonderful. Baxter rubbed the side of his neck and yawned. Took a pause to get his sore body moving again, and at some point, his thoughts wandered off elsewhere. Yes. He glanced roughly in the direction of his bedroom and sighed. Crossing your arms, you tilted your head curiously. What's wrong? I was recalling the state of my own room, and I'm fairly certain it's a mess thanks to the debacle this morning. So, nothing important. I'm not eager to tackle that tonight. It's a problem I'll deal with at a later date. I'm good at that, aren't I? His usual self-derived jabbing, all the bite taken out of it, he smirked with honest amusement. Yeah, basically. It was kind of funny, which is wild. Then Baxter brushed the thought off and returned his attention to the present task. He helped you carry your bags. I'll come back to the living room once I'm finished getting out of this uniform. Feel free to change and decompress at your own leisure. You answered with a content but sleepy hum. Music made me sleepy. And followed Baxter to the guest room. Once your bags were safely inside, he cleared his throat.
See you.
Please excuse me for now. At that, he swiftly exited the room. For the first time in a long while, watching him go didn't strike as an odd chord. The two of you would talk later, and you knew that for a fact. The apartment wasn't that big, so there wasn't a chance you could miss each other. meantime, you began unpacking and arranging your things in the new space. There was no rush, but the small changes were comforting. Later, when you showered and dressed into much more comfortably in your sleepwear, you found yourself wandering into the living room. Ooh, he's in his PJs too. There you spotted Baxter leaning over the counter in the kitchen. You had a sudden realization, despite spending the previous night at the same place, you never had caught a glimpse of Baxter or to bed. All you saw was a siphon in his leafy underwear. Baxter remained obscured behind the furniture and perused something on his phone with a creased brow. He wondered if there was some still wrapped up, still needed for the contractors that worked on the wedding. Before you could ask, Baxter joyfully bent his phone on the counter because of your arrival. He straightened his back to full height. Oh yeah, he wore something similar back 5 years ago. And you got the best view of what he was wearing. White silk jammies with a shiny black trim. On his feet, a pair of zebra-striped fuzzy slippers. Hello again. He unconsciously smoothed out the front of his shirt, but froze the second he touched his silky material. The corner of his mouth quirked. I'm pleased to see you're seemingly relaxed after the day we had. I'm aware of how this looks with the limited color scheme of my attire. I kindly ask you not to laugh. What? I don't know what you're talking about. Despite the wide grin stretching from ear to ear, you did try to give him a break. If Baxter wanted to pretend he had outgrown his monochrome taste, then you could certainly play along. Baxter stared at you in shock. He pinched a bit of the front fabric of his shirt and lifted it.
Really?
You're generally not going to say anything. I'm caught black-handed in monochrome. Nope, didn't notice. An exaggerated act of surprise. A gasp! You placed a palm on your forehead, your gaze fell to the floor, and nearly erupted in a fit of giggles. Baxter was monochrome from head to his feet. Baxter covered his mouth, momentarily tried to turn away. He instantly failed to hide his own amusement. Oh, fine, I confess. I haven't outgrown the aesthetic as much as I claim. Black and white remains my preferred color scheme. And all my pajamas are these colors, so you were bound to put all the puzzle pieces together. Your cheeks began to ache from a splitting grin. Baxter crossed his arms, but his expression remained fond. I only wish to indulge in my habits in a private manner. You weren't very good at the private part. Baxter's mouth opened, but his phone buzzed before you could speak. Do you have some work to do? It shouldn't be. Baxter reached over to the counter and checked. His playfulness quickly vanished and his smile strains. Not too surprising. Regrettably, no, not work. This should be significantly more painful. His voice fell to a hushed whisper, then reached for his phone. Hello, Xavier. He muttered the name like his own personal arch nemesis. He recognized it immediately. Xavier was the baker, and Baxter worked at Queenan's, who considered him a friend regardless. That put the reason for the night call and Baxter's words into much of a better context. Baxter lightly tapped the screen and set the phone on speaker.
Hi!
I'm sorry the call's so late, so I want to check in how the wedding went, and on you now that's done. Are you holding up all right? Baxter's gaze landed on you, the day you met Xavier. Baxter was still trying to push you away as quickly and professionally as he could. It was incredible how everything had changed.
How wonderful.
That is so considerate. Yes, I would say you're doing quite well. Wow, you're such a sweet. Thank you. Wait, Baxter is Xavier cut themselves off mid-sentence. Meanwhile, Baxalina gets inside the counter and his smirk twists into amusement. He didn't appear to be willing to clarify the conversation anytime soon. Luna, right? That's who you are? Bingo. Got it. Yes, I thought so. I at least thought so. Hi, Luna. The tone in Xavier's voice shifted smugly. Watch a small crease form in Baxter's brow. So, Luna is certainly in your presence. Paxton? Yes, they are. Even though the wedding is finished? Yes. Well, Xavier hummed confidently as the design had gone along on the plan, despite them not having any part.
That's incredible.
That's a lovely. I'm truly happy to hear that back.
Of course.
I'm sure you are. I also invited Luna to stay at my apartment for the remainder of the trip.
They're rooming at your apartment?
Didn't you swear up and down that you were, I quote, never going to associate with them after the wedding? Baxter met your eye for a split second and found himself staring at the ceiling. You tapped the counter, smiling wryly. Yes, in both matters. I do not understand what's going on with you two. Neither you nor Baxter knew what to say next. Xavier plain words hung in the air until they left you both off the hook.
So?
We should get together before Luna leaves. You did mention that before. I know, I meant that, and I meant it now. I can't quite do the accent I want to do, because it's definitely like European. Baxter sighed quietly and brushed his hand through his hair. Things never really went his way interpersonal relationship-wise. Does tomorrow work? We can grab some coffee. Baxter hesitated and checked your face for an answer. He moved to speak, but he remembered you were supposed to be good at managing people. Please hold. He automatically used his customer service voice and clicked the screen, putting the call on mute. Baxter carefully rested the phone face down. He breathed in deep and then slowly exhaled. Baxter wore a tired smile. I apologize. I should have anticipated Xavier would follow through on that threat or request. I gotta go see my mom, so I was planning on doing that tomorrow, but that's not exactly a 24-hour event.
I understand.
Of course, you've been busy with the wedding preparation. Tomorrow is finally a free day. Right, I haven't seen my mom since I got here. They've been waiting for me to come home and visit. That's a wonderful plan. I can drive you to Sunset Boulevard at 8 in the morning, and you can spend some quality time with your parents. They must be eager to see you. Maddie, you were curious on how your day was shaping up for tomorrow. Baxter returned to your neighborhood. Would be a massive surprise. Don't worry, I'll stay out of your way once you're there. Perhaps I'll accept that coffee with Xavier. What? Don't you want to see my moms? They haven't seen you in years. I'm sure they want to say hi. Please send them my regards. Baxter grew flushed in front of your growing frown. He ruffled his hair and caused several pricks to stick oddly at his frustration. His mouth pressed into a fine line.
I swear.
I'm doing it again. It's always my first response. He straightened himself out properly before speaking to you again. In the spirit of being truth about my feelings, even when they're not ideal, I'll admit it, I'm nervous to meet you about this again. I'm not exactly thrilled to see what would have happened if I appeared in front of them. I doubt they've forgotten anything. I made a terrible impression on them, didn't I? Alright, that's a pretty good reason to be worried, but avoiding people isn't you anymore, right? He rubbed the back of his neck and shrugged. Baxter seemed to be relieved that you were at least able to understand one another. Old habits die hard. So you should come with me. They'll forgive you. So they do dislike me. Nothing is as bad as it feels in your thoughts. My parents are sweet, and they're going to hear about the wedding anyways. You are an important part of that story. Unfortunately, those words did little to persuade Baxter. He continued to drag his feet over this predicament. He wasn't willing to accept the invitation, but he also wasn't willing to outright reject you either. Come on! There's an entire day after tomorrow when we can go visit Xavier, and you can come with me to see my mom's. I wanted to see Xavier again this whole time. That's not something you need to keep from. Compromise. Back Xavier wanted to meet in the morning. Did you want to visit your mom's first thing? Doesn't matter to me who we see first. Baxter chuckled at your easygoing answer, but then transitioned to a more pensive look. What is it? You're right. However, I prefer not to keep you from your family. Alright, we can plan to visit them first then. We could ask Xavier if he can hang out later on. Yes, that would work quite nicely. I believe Xavier should accommodate that request easily. Or where would we go for drinks? Wonder if there's that interactive play bar place we visited as just as a bar. It'd be nice to check it out after so long.
Oh,
Oh yeah, you can send for the drinks and atmosphere even without catching the show. Great, that's what we do. Then, one final detail. Would you be fine seeing your mother's not too early in the morning? He knew Baxter would agree to whatever you decided, but his brown eyes begged for mercy. Don't worry, there's no rush. We can relax and leave whenever we're ready tomorrow. Baxter pressed a dramatic hand over his heart. He expressed a genuine sigh of relief.
Good.
Good. It seems like we have a plan. Now we just need to run it by Xavier in their current schedule. He tapped the screen and turned on the mute setting off. Xavier, are you still there?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Thank you very much for waiting. It is fine. I imagine Luna wouldn't let you hang up on me even if you wanted to. Very funny. We just need a moment to sort out a few pertinent details. You're in luck. Luna does have some time to see you tomorrow. However, rather than in the morning, we were thinking of meeting in the evening for drinks. There's a particular bar that we enjoyed in the past, and I think it would make fun of it. Would that work, Dave? That sounds perfect.
It's settled.
We'll do it. I'll text you the address and a specific time to meet after the call. We're proud of him. Baxter had well and truly changed. Okay. Luna is lucky to have such a well-mannered personal assistant. I am not their assistant. I am his friend. Oh, it warmed your heart to hear him proclaim that confidence.
Even better.
Xavier must have shared your joy hearing Baxter so freely allowing himself to be happy. In your mind, you could have pictured a warm smile crossing his face.
Goodbye for today.
Luna, I will see you tomorrow, Xavier. Goodbye. Can't wait to see you. Ditto. We'll have a drink in honor to our friendship. Bye. And so Baxter tapped the screen to end the call. He left the phone on the counter, and just like that, the two of you had a full day of plans.
Well,
His full force smile dimmed. For a little while, you both managed to be casual, as if everything was normal and nothing had ever happened, like you'd never been apart. But in the late hour, when there was nothing left of casual life distractions, the lingering unease revealed itself. I apologize for keeping you up. I don't mind. Then, would you like to talk for a little while longer? As sorry as I am, I don't think I've been as open as I could have been. You accepted how I am was still land in some regards, but I can't fully understand it, am I right? He was no denying it. He never grasped the reasons for the way he acted. Yeah, if you're really gonna explain it, I'm not gonna stop you. Baxter's attention wandered about his apartment, then he slipped a hand into his pocket. Could we move this downstairs? The lobby of my building has an amenity I'm rather fond of. Interesting. This had already taken a turn for the unexpected, but whatever would make him feel better, you could go with it. Sure. Thank you. He led you out of the apartment and down the elevator to the ground floor lobby. From there, you went to one corner of the seating area surrounded by a chic, modern fireplace. It was a light. That was when he was drawn to. You knew it without being told. Here we are. After sweeping his hand out over the space, Baxter settled into a chair by the fire. He took a spot near him. The fire popped and crackled. He watched the flames, hypnotized by the way they danced. This is the humbler setting the last fireside talk we had, isn't it? After such a long walk down memory lane, it would be as lovely to return to that mountain lodge together. Miranda and Terry would be taking a grand trip on my suggestion, might I add. It only seems fair we should as well. Throwing up his hands in mock defeat, Baxter could only laugh at himself. Of course, when I have ever taken my own damned advice. Well...
Never.
Don't answer, I know, it's never. Or perhaps never until today. Yep, that is the correct reply. At least in this case, it is not for a lack of trying or a stubborn impulse to do the opposite of what would improve my life. It's that matter I warned you about, the charming reality of a limited expendable income. I can't afford to filter off on vacations wherever the mood strikes the way my parents can, but I have a very comfortable existence. That's certainly a fair point. He shrugged his shoulders, sinking deeper into his thought. It's nice, if lonely. Of course, let's not pretend I have anyone to blame for that other than myself. I ended every relationship relationship I had with my own actions. It's a story of my life. I want to be liked, but I don't want to be important. A suitor for a season, the planner at a wedding. It's that kind of role I'm comfortable in. Perhaps that is why I'm drawn to people who are wanted by everyone else. They don't need me. I can be someone. I can't be the one. Why? The word came out instinctively, before you can stop yourself. There was no reason for him to believe that about himself. You couldn't accept it. Baxter's arms and legs crossed as he closed his eyes in contemplation.
To be honest,
I'm not sure I would have been able to answer before, even if I wanted to, which I didn't until recently, as I saw you firsthand. Understood where my limits were and generally left it at that. But where did those lines come from? I began to reflect on it since I met you again. Seeing you made me doubt my own motivations. And I came to the conclusion somewhere along the way I did know. I knew it all along and simply chose not to think about it for a long time. Finally, he looked at you again. His eyes were a dark pool, crystal clear but bottomless. I don't deserve to have that kind of relationship with another person. That's why. The same question came to the tip of your tongue. Why? You felt as if you were asking that with him, but this time you didn't have to. Baxter answered the unspoken plea on his own.
you need to understand.
I don't contribute anything. Maybe I can impress others for a time, but how do I go beyond that? I can't say what it means to be significant as a person, to be irreplaceable. And since I don't have an answer, I certainly wasn't going to assume I'd do it by accident. The more Baxter voiced these long hidden feelings, the quieter he spoke. Baxter whispered to the fire as if he was all alone. What does it take to add value to someone simply just by being there? I tried, but I never knew. In my eyes, there was a world of humans living freely among one another, while every connection I create was so fragile. If I make the wrong step, I might hurt them or be hurt myself. And it's strained at all, it will break it entirely. Of course, I could be entirely off the mark, and everyone else might have the same struggles. What would I know, right? Baxter smirked self-deferously, recalling he had an audience.
But
Still, it was frightening to want a deeper connection, because I couldn't do it. So, I lived on, accepting what seemed to be my reality. It was painful listening to his innermost fears and insecurities, but Baxter wasn't done reflecting. Gritted your teeth and stayed quiet. I'm old enough to have forgotten my earliest years. Everything before about 6, maybe 7. It is nothing but a vague blur. What I do distinctively recall is that as a child, I was unequivocally thought as better than other people. That was those who met me were lucky, and I could pick anyone I wanted as company. Thus, onus was on everyone else to impress. If someone was boring, maybe I just didn't like the colors they were wearing that day. I could find a new playmate easily. After all, I had the most to offer. Naturally, what I was offering was that what my parents had, a big cool house, exciting outings, the best toys. It wasn't until about I was 11 or so when I developed my first stable friends. They might not have been rich like me, but they had their own charms. Those ties couldn't be replaced. Becoming attached to the people, especially those people, made me realize what I believed wasn't true. He straightened out his back and came up to the edge of his chair. And it was so obvious. They were wonderful. I felt things I never had before. All it took was being who they were. It didn't matter what their parents did. No fancy venue could top genuine camaraderie with their company.
truthfully,
And for whatever reason, I was in the club, and I was happy. The person who was lucky to be there was me. A beautiful sparkle of sentimentality brightened his features even more than the glow of the fireplace. I wanted my friends to feel the same way towards me, to have that kind of incredible effect on another person for no reason other than I was Baxter. Then the light went out. But I was older than all of them. As sheltered as I was, I got along better with kids not quite my own age, immature as always. Life changed fast then, and the years between us became more noticeable with it every day. I never reached a point where I felt like I knew what I was doing before suddenly it was as if I didn't belong with them anymore. They didn't have time to keep me around with the differences in our schedules and priorities. I accepted that, so the friendships ended. We stopped talking as young teens, and I haven't seen them since I left for college in 2015. I thought they mattered to me, but when I had done anything for them, why did I deserve to be included when all I did was want that to happen compared to them when it didn't? None of the animation, emotion, life was left in Baxter's retelling. He continued hollowly. I miss what it was like to having real friends. I miss those friends I used to have. Sometimes I wonder if they remember me. I wondered what they think of it if they do remember me. I wonder what they think of me now. But with a flick of his wrist, he rarely brushed off the admission. Both aware as a full-grown man, I learned a lesson. I made too many mistakes at that. He hadn't given up the concept of vulnerability entirely. However, Baxter had softened once more for a different confession. I also miss you over those 5 years, and Terry Marooned in Cove, and that summer in Sunset Bird, but mostly it was just you who I thought of. During that trip, I did feel...
You made me feel wanted and important.
It was exciting and amazing, and it felt impossible it could last. The shine would wear off eventually, and as always, I didn't want to see it happen. What if I seemed pathetic for being attached to people I met on a short vacation? You had your real group of friends who lived with you there already. What if you stopped responding to me after realizing I wasn't that interesting? Or why would I even assume that there would be a reason to talk to me at all once I was no longer convenience? I'm aware that's a kind way to view you, but it wasn't that you had done something to make me believe it would happen. It's my viewpoint for every situation. I recall the night before the wedding when Baxter admitted he dyed his hair. The problem that night was very much the same thing. Baxter couldn't see his own value, and he had always feared others wouldn't either. For the first time since he began spilling out his heart, Baxter paused. He considered the way he wanted to put his next words and then continued. Back then, during my tourist phase, we took that brief trip to the mountains. On a hike, past a tree that had fallen across the stream. If you can picture that, it was as if we were on the opposite sides, and I couldn't take the path to you because it looked risky. Oh. You'd certainly hadn't forgotten that experience. What he said didn't line up with your memories of that day. You do know what actually happened, don't you? We walked on it together, and then we went back to the same side. You crossed that stream bravely. That got him to chuckle ever so slightly. That was my attempt at a poignant, personally relevant metaphor, but I'm quite impressed you remember the details. He shook his head amusedly, eyes closed, as he tossed both of his hands up.
I understand.
I suppose that's the true story of my life. Me not understanding a thing and getting it wrong at every turn. Then Baxter set his attention on you, completely. He wasn't playing around anymore. But rather than dancing around this, I'll say it directly, not trying to stay in touch with you, something I've regretted for a long time. I will always regret those days I lost, even now that we've reconnected.
I'm sorry.
I am sorry, Luna. Many times it would be impossible to count how many you'd imagine a moment like this. Baxter Ward standing or sitting in front of you, sharing with you his real feelings. You never thought it would happen. That dream was only a dream, and yet it was happening. You understood what he was thinking, what drove him away, why Baxter was so Baxter. Clarity, you painfully wished for it to come at last. Reached over and took his hands. Baxter was initially confused when he took a hold of him and squeezed tight. However, the stricken look on your face kept him steady. Unsure of if you were sad or hurt or what, Baxter used his thumb to gently stroke your hands. Of course, he wouldn't think of your woes for his sake. He was a silly gentleman, but it was wonderful indulging in his warmth, and even better knowing you wouldn't have to let go again, not for real. Congratulations on making it across that bridge. I'm glad you
You're
did.
too kind.
Thank you for saying so. I appreciate you listening for your rambling love for this long. Baxter smiled, truly moved. What was lost, what could never be, had been there all along if you just reached for it. You accepted your words without buts, exceptions, or waving it off. You treasured him, and you couldn't relieved that he was starting to accept that. You couldn't have been happier. With Baxter's piece said and done, you both returned to your shared home. An incredibly, exceedingly long day, you went right to sleep. The next morning, you ambled out of your room into the hall. You let yourself sleep in and you were still tired. Checking in the apartment, you found the living room was empty and so was the kitchen. Baxter hadn't come out of his room. You had no signs of stirring either, and he probably wasn't awake. You thought there was at least a chance he'd be to the early one, but that was not the case. After freshening up in the bathroom, you still had the place to yourself. But there was things you could do. Packing. The trip was almost over after all. You dropped your suitcase on your bed and started to lazily fill it with bits and bobs. For all your good intentions, your head wasn't in it. Alone with your thoughts, you sank into reflecting on what happened before and imagining what would happen next. Until the sound of the door snapped at you out of it. How long had it been? You had no idea. Be sure that Baxter was up. Slow footsteps approached nearer and nearer, and then there was a knock. Come in. Carefully, Baxter let himself in. He peeked through an only half-open door.
Hey.
Good morning, Luna. Morning, sleepyhead. I can leave you be if you're in the middle of something. No way, I was waiting for you to finally get up. You dropped his shirt you'd been haphazardly folding and joined him by the door, pushing it all the way over.
Excellent.
He gestured with a light wave, then, clad again in a fuzzy zebra print slippers, Baxter shuffled to the community space of the apartment. You followed along. You dropped like a sack of monochrome potatoes to one of the chairs. Baxter had no reason to rush that morning, so he could be as complacent as he wanted, which was very much. Making it out from under his blanket, he hadn't meant he was ready to join the rest of the waking world. Baxter was still lingering in the peaceful dreamland of his own home. He thought he was simply precious. Kisses for him. Adorable. His eyes fully closed as he gave him a small peck. Baxter sighed sweetly. He then curled his legs onto the cushions while stretching his arms up toward the ceiling. It feels like as if the wedding was a lifetime ago, not yesterday. He snickered. He only murmured softly in response, unable to muster the energy entirely for words. He took it delightfully easy while getting decent for the day. Baxter had a wide selection of lotions, oils, and creams for the skin and hair, which you were permitted to rate as much as or as little as you wanted. He made liberal use of it on himself. Why are you not surprised he was the kind of man with a 30-minute morning pampering routine? The two of you also got to enjoy a comfortably quiet breakfast together before finally heading out. You left the city behind, sought straight past the suburbs, and headed toward the horizon. A tiny tourist town came into view under the high noon sun. Baxter's car came into alongside the street. It was the same spot he used to have when he was a tourist. It was already felt good to be back. You were energized, downright perky, and things had finally come full circle. Climbed down and strode down the road to your childhood home. Now, my wonderful and forgiving Luna, Baxter spoke out halting.
Are you sure?
Are you positive this isn't going to be an unwelcome intrusion? I'm not saying this because I prefer to hide from my past. I'm done with that, but I think we should give your parents space if they need it. Well, they'll probably get protective, but that's normal.
Very well.
He accepted his fate. So, I think at this point, we're going to end this episode here. I hope you guys have a good day, night, week, month of your lives, and may the stars forever guide your path wherever they might lead you into the future. And I hope to see you guys again next time. Bye-bye.